Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to Kini News. Prime Minister Dr Mahathir Mohamad has responded to Umno President Ahmad Zahid Hamidi on his remarks during a ceramah in Tanjung Piai, Johor last night that the law has not been applied in a just manner since the appointment of Tommy Thomas as Attorney General. When asked for his comments today, Mahathir questioned why Zahid did not blame his boss for stealing money. He added that Zahid should ask himself why they had lost in the last general election.
Masa dulu waktu ada orang curi duit, bos dia curi duit, dia tak blame langsung. Sekarang ini puteri kan nak blame. Bila balik bagi tanya peringat diri sendiri. Kenapa kamu kalah? Kamu kalah pasal kamu tidak blame bos kamu. Okay?
At the same ceramah last night, Zahid claimed that the law is being abused under the Pakatan Harapan government and under the watch of Attorney General Tommy Thomas. He had questioned the acquittal of a woman over the 2017 case of reckless driving, which caused the death of 8 teenage cyclists. He had also brought up the release of 4 suspects detained in connection with the death of firefighter Muhammad Adib Muhammad Qasim. He alleges that the suspects were released because they had, quote, human rights lawyers and Thomas was the Attorney General. Now, speaking of Tanjung Piai, electoral reform pressure group Bersih has accused the Johor government's annual 1,000 ringgit special payment to fisherfolk there as a form of vote buying. In a statement today, Bersih argued that although the payment was a scheduled annual payment, it should have been suspended instead during the campaign period to ensure a level playing field. Bersih was referring to the announcement by the Johor government yesterday that 544 Tanjung Piai fisherfolk will be receiving their 1,000 ringgit annual cash handout next week. The Johor government had refuted claims that this was vote buying because the handouts for the fisherfolk had been in place since 2015 and that the payout usually takes place between October and November. Home Minister Muhyiddin Yassin has admitted that there is unhappiness among Chinese voters towards the Pakatan Harapan government and asked for time to fix these problems, especially those involving the economy. He said this in response to a question on a Tanjung Piai field survey by Institute Darul Ehsan or IDE last month, which found that only 40% of Chinese respondents are willing to vote for the party they chose in GE14. However, Muhyiddin believes that this unhappiness will not result in protest votes.
Yang ini kita sedar umum ada sentimen-sentimen yang tak berapa positif, tetapi yang agak interesting enough, as much as they are not happy, they are not prepared to swing to the end. Some of you are Chinese here also. Yeah, they are not happy with Pakatan, not because of that they will abandon Pakatan.
Amanah Deputy President Salahuddin Ayub has said that he is ready to cooperate with the police in the probe into his speech in Tanjung Piai, which was accused to contain racist elements. He told reporters in Parliament today that he would wait to see if the police needed his statement and reiterated that he does not think his speech contained any racial element at all. The police had yesterday said that they might call Salahuddin in for questioning over a viral video of the said speech. This comes after some members of BN Wanita lodged a police report against him. Prime Minister Dr Mahathir Mohamad said that the government is keeping tabs on the location of fugitive financier Low Teck Joe but is unable to employ drastic measures to bring him home to face justice. However, Mahathir also maintained that Malaysia remained in pursuit of Low despite obstacles.
We can go to war, but we will lose the war and we will lose Joe Low. We are conscious that we are not a very strong nation. Sometimes people are nice to us, sometimes they are not, but we have to accept.
So is that country in the west or in east?
I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know.
But then what measures will Malaysia go to bring him back?
We are working hard on it, trying to get information, but information is not easy to get.
Now let's take a look at international headlines. More than 260 Iraqis have been killed since the start of October in the largest demonstration since the fall of Saddam Hussein in 2003. Protesters are demanding the overthrow of a political class seen as corrupt and beholden to foreign interests. Iraqi security forces fired tear gas and live rounds into the air to disperse protesters in central Baghdad on Wednesday, killing one person as the biggest wave of anti-government demonstrations in decades spread out across the capital. The shootings took place near 3 of Baghdad's main bridges, which have become focal points of the protests. Protesters had begun trying to block bridges earlier this week as part of efforts to bring the country to a standstill, with thousands joining anti-government demonstrations in the capital and southern provinces. The protesters are demanding the overthrow of a political class seen as corrupt and beholden to foreign interests. Meanwhile, in Bolivia, protesters also took to the streets, but instead they demanded new elections amidst accusations of fraud in a recent vote that saw President Evo Morales green-lighted for a fourth term in office. Tensions flared up in the streets of La Paz, Bolivia on Tuesday as protesters took to the streets to demand new elections amidst accusations of fraud in a recent vote that saw President Evo Morales green-lighted for a fourth term in office. A Bolivian protest leader vowed to intensify pressure on President Evo Morales to resign as he resisted opposition demands that he step down over contentious election results. Luis Fernando Camacho, a major figure in the opposition, said that he would lead a protest march in the capital and push for Morales' resignation on Wednesday. Other opposition figures continued their calls for Morales to step down after his win last month pushed the country into a democratic crisis. Morales won last month's vote with a lead of just over 10 points over his nearest rival Carlos Mesa, giving him an outright win. The victory was marred by a near 24-hour halt in the count, which when resumed, showed a sharp and unexplained shift in Morales' favor. Morales, who came into power in 2006 as Bolivia's first indigenous leader, has defended his election win. Now, before we wrap up, here are some other news highlights from today. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have time for. For more, you can log on to KiniTV.com. Don't forget, you can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and Daily Motion for the latest news. I'm Daniel Anthony. Thank you for watching.